Hey guys, this is Dr. Jansen, and today our lesson is over the order of operations. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing to understand is that the order of operations is just a set of rules that we need to follow when we have more than one operation happening in our expression. So this set of rules that we need to follow is really easy to remember. We just remember this acronym called PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S. So it's going to take us a second to write this out here, but it's really important. This is another one of those mathematical lessons that's going to change your life forever, starting today. So PEMDAS, okay, here we go. P stands for parentheses, P-A-R-E-N-T-H-E-S-I-S, parentheses. E, I'm going to change up the color here, is for exponents. E-X-P-O-N-E-N-T-S. Then M is for multiplication. I couldn't remember if I wrote down multiplication or multiply. It doesn't really matter. Multiplication, M-U-L-T-I-P-L-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. And then we have division, D-I-V-I-S-I-O-N. And lastly, we have addition. Oh, just kidding. I didn't scroll down yet. Second to lastly, we have addition, A-D-D-I-T-I-O-N. Then lastly, we have subtraction, S-U-B-T-R-A-C-T-I-O-N. What's really important to remember is for these last four, so right here, for multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, there's something special about these four. While parentheses is going to be our first step, and parentheses is also going to include grouping symbols. We're going to talk about that later on another day, not today, but it's just important to remember that it also does include that at some point way down the line. In step 2 is exponents, and we're going to solve them in this order every time. But step 3 is actually multiplication and division combined. They are one step. It is not, this needs to be abundantly clear, it is not multiplication and then division. They do not go in that order. No. It is multiplication or division. Whichever comes first, left to right when we're solving our equation is how we're going to check. Left to right, multiplication or division. They are one step. And the same thing is true for addition and subtraction. They together are step 4. Whichever one comes first, left to right, is our final step in the order of operations. So we're going to check left to right, and whichever one comes first, either addition or subtraction, is what we're going to solve. So now let's try out a few problems. Let's look at number 1. It says 4 squared, and then because it's right up against that parentheses, we know it means to multiply. So it says 4 squared times, and then inside of the parentheses, it says 20 minus 3 times 6. So let's follow our order of operations. We can't just start squaring things and adding or subtracting things, multiplying things. We can't do that. The order of operations, the whole point of the order of operations is that we have to follow this set of rules that we just learned, okay? So we have to start at the top or with step 1. Step 1 is P. Are there any parentheses? So I have to look at my problem, scan my problem from left to right. Well, not even from left to right. Right now I'm on parentheses. And I have to say, are there any parentheses in this problem? And the answer is yes, there are. Right here I see parentheses. So the next part is to do whatever is inside those parentheses. The problem I run into is I have two operations inside my parentheses. I have some subtraction right here, and I have some multiplication. Oh, I should include my negative. And I have some multiplication right there. So how do I know which one to do first? Do I do the subtraction first? Do I do the multiplication first? Well, I refer back to the order of operations. Which one comes first? Is it multiplication or division, or is it addition or subtraction? I see in my order of operations that multiplication or division comes first as step 3. So I am going to do just the multiplication part first. See how I made sure to include my negative sign because, again, it's attached to my 3. My 3 is not just 3, it's a negative 3. So that is the part that I'm going to do first. This multiplication that is inside of my parentheses. Everything else I am just going to copy down. Copy down my 4 squared. I'm still going to copy down my parentheses because I haven't done everything inside of it yet. I'm only doing part of it. I'm going to copy down my 20 because I haven't been able to do anything with my 20 yet. And negative 3 times 6 gives me negative 18. Copy down my other part of my parenthesis. And now I do the next part. Next thing, I still have to ask myself, are there any parentheses? I'm still on step 1. I can't move on from that until I can answer the question that there are no more parentheses. Are there still any parentheses? Yes, there are right here. So my next job is to do what's inside those parentheses. 20 minus 18 is 2. I am still going to keep my answer in those parentheses, even though there's nothing left to do inside of there, because by keeping that 2 inside of the parentheses, it's reminding me that I have to multiply it by this 4 squared. Because if I just wrote, let's look over to the side here, okay? If I just wrote 4 squared 2, that would look kind of weird. I have to keep my answer inside of the parentheses so I remember, oh, that's right, it means that I'm going to need to multiply it by the answer to my exponent problem, okay? So now let's continue. Next in my order of operations, exponents. Do I have any exponents? Yes, I do right here. I have 4 squared. 4 squared gives me 16 because that's 4 times itself. 4 times 4 is 16, or I could have punched that in my calculator. 16, and now I'm going to take that 2 out and just make it times 2 because, again, I remember that parenthesis really meant that I just needed to multiply. And now I can just solve that. 16 times 2 is 32, and that is the answer to my problem for number 1. So great job. We finished solving number 1. All right, I've got one more example for you. Let's look at number 2. Again, first thing we're going to check for is parentheses. And here, even though we have 2, we have negative 5 and a negative 2 both in parentheses. What we're looking for is actually an operation inside of the parentheses to be able to perform. Here we just have a negative 5 inside of one and a negative 2 inside of the other. So there's not actually anything for us to do here. So we can move on to the next step. Next step, second step is exponents. Here we see we have negative 5 up to the second power, and then here in the end we have 3 to the third power. So here we have both of those going on. In order to figure out which one we do first, when we're doing the order of operations, we always move left to right. So we're going to do this one first and this one second. So first we're going to do negative 5 in parentheses squared, which ends up being 25 when you punch that in your calculator. It's really important when you put that in your calculator that you put this in parentheses or you will get the wrong answer. Because if you don't put it in parentheses, let's say we took these parentheses away for a second. Let's make our eraser a little more. If you took this parentheses away for a second, your calculator will actually just do 5 to the second power, which is 25, and then it'll assume this is a -1, and it'll do 25, positive 25 times -1, and it'll tell you it's -25, which is not the correct answer. It is positive 25. So it's really important that when we practice good calculator precision, and that when we put things in our calculator, it mimics exactly what we see in front of us. So if you see something in parentheses, you would better put it in parentheses in your calculator. So we get positive 25, and I'm going to rewrite the rest of my equation. Now I'm going to do my other exponent, 3 to the third power. I know it's positive because it has that plus sign in front of it. And this one's not in parentheses, so it can just go in as I see it in front of me. 25 times -2, we keep that plus sign, and 3 to the third power is 27. And again, can I answer the question, are there any more exponents now on this step? Nope, so I can move on to the next one, which is multiplication division. Do we see any multiplication or division here that needs to be completed? Yes, we see multiplication right here, because having nothing between this number and this parenthesis means I need to multiply. So 25 times -2 gives me -50. And I'm going to copy down the rest of my problem, which is plus 27. Do I have any more multiplication or division to complete? I do not. Do I have any addition or subtraction to complete? I do. -50 plus 27 gives me -23. I want to double check that my answer matched what I had on my paper. And it does, so we are good to go. You just solved another equation using the order of operations. Great job.